or anything that maybe you think that any of these gentlemen can answer, that would be great. So we'll go with maybe 5 questions. Let's see. I see Michael Baker. Michael Baker has his hand up. Hang on. All right, Mike, what's your question?
What if you have a fire extinguisher?
He asked about a fire extinguisher.
A fire extinguisher is just like a smoke detector. It prevents fire, okay? It's not something for kids to play with. You even have them in school. You're not supposed to touch them. They're for adults, okay? But your mom and dad should go ahead and have a fire extinguisher. It covers different types of fires, just like ABC. That way you can put out, fires from grease or put out paper fires. But that's a very good question. Your mom and dad should have them maybe downstairs, in the garage, things like that. Because if they can go ahead and give it a squirt and put the fire out, that's wonderful. But you know what? If that fire is too big, most of those extinguishers won't really work. That's when you're going to call us anyway. We want you to call us anyway, okay? You can make sure the fire's out.
All right. Good question, Michael Baker. I saw Anthony. Anthony with his hand. What's your question, Anthony?
What if you're riding your scooter and you don't have a helmet?
Scooters and helmets.
Okay.
Good question, Anthony.
That's a very good question. A lot of you guys might not just have bicycles, you might have motor scooters, you might have ATVs, and we're here to tell you that those helmets will save your life. You get thrown off of that motorcycle or bike, and you land on your head, you don't have a helmet, you're probably dead, okay? But in this case here, you wear that helmet. We are believers of the helmet. We want you to be believers of the helmet too. Okay? If you break your arm or something like that, that won't be a big deal. But if you break your head, so to speak, then it's bad. It's really bad. Okay, good question.
All right, good question. Let me find a girl. I thought Amber Chu. I thought I saw you in your hand up. Hang on. Amber Chu, what's your question?
If there's a fire and when you open your window but your screen is still closed and you can't get it open, what do you do then?
Okay, that's a good question too. A person your size, you might want to be able to, if you're able to pick up something and just push it, those things will push out pretty easy. Now the bigger kids, they can probably just they can probably push it out with their hand. Alright? It's not like you can pick up you're so small you can't pick up a chair and throw it out the window. But you can with those. If you can, you just yell at the screen up there, wave your hands, and we'll come get you. Alright?
All right. Good questions. I'm super excited. These are actually really good questions. All right. I'm going to come back here with some of the older kids. Isaiah, do you still have a question? I saw your hand up. Chelsea Sims, what's your question?
What if your window's unopenable?
What if you can't open your window?
Okay, that's a very good question because what you're doing is you're kind of telling on your parent right now. Your mom and dad's responsibility is to make sure those windows open for your safety. Okay? A lot of parents, and I'm not blaming them, it's just that a lot of parents do this, they'll paint the outside of their house, and you go ahead and put paint on your windows, it sticks. And it's like glue, and you can't hardly open or slide the window open. They need to go ahead and make sure they do that right, and make sure that window works for you guys. And it's going to work for us. Because I guarantee you, if it doesn't work for us, we're going to take an axe and we're going to break it out. You know what I'm saying? So if it's not operable, that means if it doesn't work, you need to sit down to mom and dad and say, hey, listen, my window can't open. How do you expect me to get out? Make your mom and dad accountable for making sure that you can get out. All right? You guys should, there's such a thing called Operation Eat It. It's exit drills in the home. And that means you practice. Just like you practice baseball. Just like you practice playing, riding your bike. You practice. You blindfold yourself. You crawl out of your room. And then say, your mom and dad can say that, pretend. If you pretend and practice, you will do good if the time ever comes. Believe me, we hope you never have a fire. I never had a fire at my house. But you know what? If I practice, I'm going to get good at it, right? Okay, so that's what we're asking you to do.
All right, next question.
Hi,
catch on fire and you roll on the ground and that doesn't work.
Okay. Well, when you roll, you're actually tamping out the fire as you roll. You're smothering the fire. Okay? It's just like they have something called a fire blanket. If something was on fire over here, I can throw it over the top of it, and it cuts off the oxygen. Okay? Fire needs oxygen, so if you go ahead and cut off the air supply, and that's what you're doing by rolling. And your friends can always go ahead and they can throw dirt on you. You know, they can go ahead and tamp you out with other things. Okay? But that's a good question. It always makes you wonder, what happens if? What happens if this happens? I do have a couple questions for you guys, and we might have to go there. All right? Never play with matches, lighters. Okay? If your best friend or your brother or sister's playing with this stuff, you are allowed to be a tattletale. That is a good time to be a tattletale. You tell on that person because you might be saving their life. They're going back behind the shed and lighting cigarettes or lighting up stuff. Next thing you know, it catches on fire, and it catches them on fire and they die. You see what you can prevent by going ahead and telling a big person? You got to tell on those people. Do we play with knives? No. Do we play with guns? No. What if we see our best friend doing these kind of things? We tell on them. You have to tell on them. Okay.
All right. Well, go ahead and put your hands down, boys and girls. I think I said 5, and I did 5. I double checked with Miss Andrew. All right. Looking. All right. So a couple of things before we dismiss. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being such good participants, and you all sat respectfully, and you gave everyone your full attention. So give yourselves a round of applause, boys and girls. All right, good job. And I also want to once again draw attention to, I know that we recognize Jacob Hansen, but also his mother is here. And so I want to just say thank you to her, because I know that him wearing a helmet and her insisting on him wearing a helmet was very important. So I wanted to recognize Jacob's mother and thank her as well. And I have to say that when they were asking how many boys and girls rode their bicycles to school, I think that was a pretty accurate count of the hands that went up. But I think we need to rethink the helmets being worn. Because if you ride a bike to school, we've talked about this before. Your classroom teachers have talked with you. I've talked with you that it's really important, boys and girls, that you wear your bicycle helmets to school. Because it's very hard for us to watch you ride in and ride out every day without a helmet and know that it's very unsafe for you. So we have to make sure that you understand, those of you, and it is a large number of children that ride their bike to school, are wearing your helmets, because we don't see very many of you with helmets, and that's why we wanted to have this today, because you need to understand how incredibly important it is for your safety. So please, those of you that are riding your bicycles to school, and just those of you that are riding them at home, it's really, really important that you are keeping your head safe and that you're always wearing your helmet. And so let's give a round of applause to our firefighters and EMS.